Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to look at the brand new Samsung Galaxy Tab S10 Plus, and this is a kind of a bit of a higher end device than some of the stuff we've looked at on the channel before, but I wanted to see how retro gaming and gaming in general would work on a relatively high-end tablet. So before we get to opening this box, the specifications for the Galaxy Tab S10 Plus, not a comprehensive list, but at least the ones that are relevant. The tablet's powered by a MediaTek Dimensity 9300 Plus, which is, at least as of the recording of this video, MediaTek's flagship chip. The 9400 will be coming out soon, if I'm reading correctly. But for right now, this is top-end MediaTek, and we will see how this compares to Qualcomm Snapdragons in terms of playing games and doing other things. Tablet comes with 12 gigs of RAM, which is plenty enough for the kinds of tablet stuff that I typically do. I think more than that would probably be overkill, but comes with plenty of RAM. Storage options, 256 gigs of internal storage or 512. This happens to be the 512 gigabyte version. If you're going to get a nice tablet, make sure to get one with a lot of storage. Plus, unlike some other tablets, this one has not done away with the micro SD slot. You can add another up to, according to the specs anyway, 1.5 terabytes of additional storage using micro SD. I happen to have a 512 gigabyte micro SD that I'm going to put in here on top. So I'll have a total of a gig storage, 512 internal, a terabyte storage, 512 internal, and another 512 on the micro SD. I might update the micro SD card later, but I did have a spare 512 gig lying around, so I figured I'd use it. It also helps to get some of the stuff we want to test onto the tablet. Display, there's a 12.4 inch 2800 by 1752 display, 120 hertz variable refresh rate OLED screen. I have the feeling this thing is going to be beautiful in terms of what the display looks like. I'm kind of anticipating that. We've got 4 speakers, as is common with a lot of the better tablets. If this sounds anything like the Apple iPad Pro that I'm going to be comparing it to, I think this will be pretty good. Samsung claims the battery, and it's a pretty big battery, will last 13 hours of usage. Well, probably won't test that in this video unless it's way longer than I anticipate, but it also has 45-watt fast charging, so you can get the battery up to speed pretty quickly. And unlike some tablets, this one actually has a water resistance rating. So water and dust resistant, which can certainly come in handy if you're messing around outdoors and, oh, it starts to rain. So you don't have to worry about this tablet getting a little water on it and then getting ruined. According to Samsung, you can have it, I think, in 5 feet of water for 30 minutes and it'll be fine. But it's nice to see that the tablets are also getting some waterproofing features, because with a device like this costing between $1,000 and $1,100, you don't want it to get ruined by just a little bit of water. So let's get into actually opening this box. I've already popped the seals on the back. Seals that say do not accept this tablet unless it's sealed. So we'll get a look in here. So the tablet comes in a little sleeve here. We'll take a look at that in a minute. What else do we get? We get the S Pen. I've never used one of these before, but I have used the Apple Pen. I'm assuming it's going to work pretty much the same way. Looks like it's got a button on it, and I'm assuming it's got a flat side, so it probably sticks to the tablet to charge it, kind of like the Apple Pencil does. We have a tool here, which is probably for opening up the micro SD slot. What else we got in here? Quick start guide. So I will probably temporarily stop the video after getting all this stuff out and doing a couple of comparisons, because I figure it's probably going to take a few minutes to set up the device, and nobody wants to watch this thing download updates. But it's got a little layout about, oh, that's where the pin goes, so the pin sticks on the back. So we've got 2 cameras in the back, and I think 1 in the front. But just a little quick start thing in here. I guess I'll put it back in the box. What's in the other box? I'm guessing maybe this is a cable. Let's find out. Okay, yeah, we got charging cable. Don't have a charging brick, so I will have to pull another charger into service here. The specifications say it supports 45-watt fast charging, so I will grab one of my 65-watt blocks and charge this thing up once we take a good look at it. So, not a whole lot in the box, but it does come with the pin, unlike the Apple device. Apple device, you have to buy the pencil/pin, whatever you want to call it, separately. So let's see. They don't want you to get in here. I got a little dust on it from the sleeve, but here is the actual tablet. It's got an anti-glare coating, which is why the lights up there look kind of funny. I see a camera on the front and looks like a couple of sensors. There's one here and one there. Supposedly there's a fingerprint sensor built into the screen. Looks like right now we've got our cameras on the back. I guess the S Pen goes there. Oh, there's a flashlight. We've got power button. I'm assuming this is volume. Oh, here's the micro SD slot over here. Looks like microphones, I guess stereo microphones. There's a connector on the bottom, which is probably for a keyboard case. This doesn't come with a case of any kind for your $1,100. And if you look on the ends, you can kind of see the speaker grills here for left and right. Hopefully this sounds nice. And of course your USB-C for charging. So that's basically what the device looks like at the moment. So what we like to do is get some comparisons in here. This tablet isn't super heavy. Let's find out how heavy it actually is. So we will pull out the scale. So it looks like the tablet weighs in at 570 grams, which, for comparison, an Odin 2 weighs 428. So heavier than the Odin 2, but not super heavy as far as tablets go. I have my other tablet out here, my iPad. Now, my iPad has a tempered glass screen protector on it, so that probably adds to the weight. But the iPad, the 11-inch iPad, is 508 grams. The Samsung, 574. So a little heavier, but it's also a lot bigger. Speaking of big, let's do some size comparisons here. Let me clear off some space. So we have the iPad over here, getting a little reflection in the lights, versus the Samsung Galaxy Tab S10. This is upside down. This is the iPad Pro, the 11-inch version, the 2022 model. And you can see that in terms of height, of course, the Samsung is a good bit higher, taller. In terms of the width, I guess because the screen have different aspect ratios, the widths aren't that different. It's a little bit bigger in this dimension on the Samsung, but not by much. The bezels around the screen of these two are about the same size. Maybe the iPads are slightly thinner, but that's at least comparable. Now for retro gaming, you can compare this device in terms of size to something like an Odin 2 Mini, which is microscopic compared to this. And here's an regular Odin 2. So the regular Odin 2 is still a good bit smaller, but yeah, the Odin 2 is no tiny device. The Odin 2 Mini, of course, is completely dwarfed by this big screen Samsung. Now, I have one other Samsung device, actually. This is right here is a Galaxy Tab A7 Lite, which, by the way, I do not recommend you buy the Galaxy Tab A7 Lite. Got it cheap on a Black Friday sale. Haven't been too happy with it because it's incredibly slow. So don't get that. It's garbage. But this tablet promises to be a whole lot faster. And what we're going to need to do now, I believe, is probably pause the video for a while, get this tablet set up with an account, download some games and some software, and we're going to do some benchmarks, and we're going to do benchmark comparisons against the Odin 2 and also against my 2022 iPad Pro. And we're going to see how this flagship MediaTek chip compares to the Apple M2 and the Snapdragon Gen 8. All right, so Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. Now, of course, the Odin has a one thing that these other tablets don't, which is the active cooling. So one of the things I'm going to want to do here is to see what the effect of the active cooling is on the performance. I would expect, and we'll find out when we run the benchmarks, I will expect that whatever the Odin 2's performance is, it will probably be pretty consistent. Whereas I suspect that the Apple Silicon here, and probably this one as well, will probably show some significant dropping off of performance over time, just because there's not really a good, efficient way to get rid of heat in here. And the same thing with the iPad. You know, there's no way to cool these things quickly. But we will take a break for a bit and come back with some benchmarking. And then after the benchmarking, we will take a look at some gameplay on the Samsung Galaxy Tab S10 Plus. So I got this tablet up and running, did the initial setup stuff, and have installed some software here. We won't be testing all of it in this video because video doesn't need to be a feature-length movie. But we have some software installed. We've got Zenless Zone 0. We've got some emulators in here and some other stuff. The system itself feels very responsive, certainly way better than that Galaxy Tab A7 that I had, which seemed to kind of struggle just with doing things in the interface. But this is fast, and you may not be able to tell on the video just because the video's 60 frames per second, but doesn't seem to be any real ghosting with sliding things back and forth on the Android menu like you see on some of the less expensive Android handhelds. So the screen looks pretty solid so far. Probably do some video demonstrations later on, maybe not in this video, maybe in a second review video. But right now, what we've got up is benchmarks. So how does the Dimensity 9300 Plus compare to things like the M2 found in the iPad Pro that I have, and the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 found in the Odin 2 Pro. So let's take a look at some benchmarks. So what I did was and this probably took longer than doing any of the setup of the tablet, ran some stress benchmarks. The reason for that is these tablets tend to, and a lot of phones too, tend to slow down over time just because they can't get rid of heat. So it's important not to just look at the highest number for something, but how well the tablet can keep the performance it's got. So for Wildlife Extreme, the 3D Mark test, you can see that the high scores are pretty good. Not up to the iPad Pro. I think the thing that Apple really has that they do better than anything else is just raw performance. I mean, the Apple chips are always really fast. I think the reason that we don't do a whole lot more gaming on iPads is just the chips are really fast, but they have everything locked down, so you can't actually do anything with the power. But you can see it in this test here. The iPad Pro, even though it's the 2022 model, kind of smokes the rest of the competition here. But one thing that we notice here is we notice that for both of the tablets, and not so much for the Odin 2 Pro, we notice that the tablets lose some of their oomph over time. So we see these stability numbers, which basically just the higher it is, the more the tablet keeps its performance. So if you look at this particular test for the Galaxy Tab, you can see if you look at the graph that it actually starts off really high and then it kind of settles down into lower performance here. You can also see that on some of the other graphs. So you see a really big boost at the beginning, but due to probably just thermal issues, chips got to keep cool somehow, it slows down to a relatively consistent but lower performance. And you can see in this test, the endpoint here actually isn't quite as good as what the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 and the Odin 2 Pro does. Now, the iPad, even though it does the same sort of thing, the iPad starts off really high. Oops. The iPad starts off really high and the performance tails off here as well. And you can see that in the frame rate graph too. Really big burst of performance in the first minute or two, and then it settles down into a lower set of speed, but still pretty fast. The advantage of something like the Odin 2 with the active cooling, if you look at the Odin 2's graph for the same test, you can see that the graph for the performance of this test is pretty much a straight line, because the active cooling in the Odin helps it maintain whatever performance it has. So we can certainly see that active cooling is a pretty big deal here. Now, we saw similar results in the other tests. The Galaxy Tab is a solid performer, particularly if you don't have to maintain the performance for very long. So here's the Steel Nomad Lite stress test. You can see that the Galaxy Tab starts off leading the Odin 2 Pro and actually continues. Even at its low point, it's still higher than the Odin 2 Pro on this test. So looks like MediaTek's flagship can certainly compete with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. I don't have a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 device to test, so can't give you performance on any Snapdragon higher than what's in the Odin 2 Pro. But you can certainly see that this tablet is a pretty good performer, even though you do have drop-offs just like pretty much all of these tablets, I think, are going to have. Looking at Solar Bay, which is more of a ray tracing test, we can see that the iPad Pro and the Galaxy Tab are actually on pretty close footing here, and the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 basically is certainly below that. It never can reach the highs that either the iPad or the Galaxy Tab can. But again, because of the active cooling, whatever performance you get on the Odin 2 Pro, it tends to keep it. So if you're running tasks where running games or emulators where you're basically maxing out the processor and the GPU the whole time, then the Odin 2 Pro is going to give you more consistent performance. But if you're not being maxed out all the time, well, these tablets can certainly hold their own with performance. So we have done some benchmarking here and did a look at the comparative results and demonstrated that, yeah, active cooling would be nice to have, but you're not going to get it on a tablet as thin as the iPad Pro or the Galaxy S10 Plus. Now, what we'd like to do next is take a look at some actual gameplay. So let's see how this device performs with some games. So I'm going to pair up a DualShock and come back with some games running.
You're wasting my time.
I could use a little sparring practice. That was fun. No problem.
You're way uptight. Chill out.
Sidekick. Sidekick.
Zero point.
That was easy.
You're wasting my
You
time.
want a taste of my food, do you?
Sidekick.
Zero point.
All right.
You're wasting my
You
time.
want a taste of my blade, do you? This'll be tasty. I can see
Is that all you got? You'll pay for that. We're on a roll. Delio. Are you talking to me? Never forget the familia. Next up, DMV.
Don't mess with me!
Hey!
Hell no! Are you for real? Someone looking to get dusted? What up, yo?
Poor bastard. I ain't never seen that before.
Hey, Holmes.
Hey, amigo, ¿qué pasa?
Oh!
Out of the
Watch
car.
it, asshole!
It'll kick in it.
Oh my
Pull
god!
it back later!
Oh!
Hey, papi. Oh!
I got anything you want.
Hey, amigo, ¿qué pasa?
Ah! Amigo, ¿qué pasa?
take you. Guess what?
Dirty tricks.
Move it. Smash 'em. Out of my way. I'll take you.
Standing by. Watch and learn. You're under arrest.
Understood. Out of my way. This.
You're not even close.
Time to hunt.
Courage is power.
I'll take you out of my way. I'll take you out of my way. I'll take you.
Not even close. In position.
Move it. Say no more.
There's no retreat now.
I'll take you.
Stop resisting.
Can you resist?
Let me at him.
So, we have looked in the box of the Galaxy S10 Plus tablet. We have done some benchmarking compared to other tablets and game systems, and we've seen some examples of gameplay, both native Android games and emulated games from the Vita and the PlayStation 2 on this device. So, after all of that, after playing around with this for a while, what do I think about this thing? So, some things that I really liked. The screen is absolutely amazing. This is the best screen I've personally had on a tablet that I've owned, and with the OLED screen, HDR, 120 hertz, this is an absolutely gorgeous screen, and not only for playing games on, but for media consumption. The camera does not do it justice, but this is an amazing screen. If you get this tablet, you will definitely be happy with the screen. Can it game? Yes, it can certainly game within the limitations of a typical tablet, mainly the thermal issues, but it doesn't seem to have much trouble playing the PlayStation 2 games I've done on it so far. Runs Zenless Zone 0 at high settings, 60 frames per second, and it didn't have any trouble with the Vita either. I did see one graphical glitch, but in Borderlands, you might be able to see it if you watch closely in the Vita gameplay demo. But other than that, I didn't have any problems. I actually had less glitches in Vita emulation than I have on typical Snapdragons. So not too bad a performance there. The sound is quite good. Of course, you can't really tell anything about the sound of a tablet by watching a video on YouTube, but the 4 speakers definitely, particularly for media and games as well, really give you, for a tablet, full sound. So sound quality is actually quite good on this tablet. Way better than the typical little emulation handhelds that I usually use. So, this is excellent for media. The one thing I like about this that sadly seems to be going away is that we have expandable storage here. So I have 512 gigs of internal memory. You can pop in, according to the specs, as much as 1.5 terabytes more. So for a total of 2 terabytes of storage, that's not too bad. And those are the official limits. Sometimes you can use bigger cards, but who has a bigger card than about 1.5 terabytes around now anyway? So there is lots of storage, and there is expandability with the micro SD card. So all those are pretty good points. So with all that said, there are some things that I didn't like quite so much. So again, we have passively cooled performance limitations. So I think for some high demand emulation cases, you're going to see slowdown after a while, just because the tablet is not going to be able to cool itself fast enough. So for systems like that, you might want to stick with something actively cooled like the Odin 2. And also, again, for emulation specifically, the Mali or non-Adreno GPU is going to probably give you some problems here, just because a lot of emulators tend to be optimized specifically for Snapdragon. Although, I didn't see too many issues so far, but some of the more difficult to emulate games may have trouble on this just because of driver issues. Android games, probably no issues there, but some emulation, you may end up having problems because this isn't actually a Snapdragon, even though it does perform very well. Of course, the big con, particularly if you're looking at this tablet primarily for gaming and emulation, is it's quite expensive. So if you just want a game and you don't care about using the device for tablet stuff like work even, or media consumption, then an Odin 2 base model is quite a bit cheaper than this. You can get close to 4 Odin 2 bases for the price of this one tablet. So that is definitely a disadvantage. Of course, I think the thing you're paying for with this tablet in particular is you are paying for this screen. So the screen in the Odin 2, in fact, pretty much any emulation handheld you care to name, just really doesn't compare to what you find in this tablet. But you pay for it. So the biggest con here is just the price tag. But overall, I am enjoying this tablet so far. I will probably be putting it in rotation on the channel with the other emulation devices just to see how a nice tablet copes with all the gaming tasks. So you will see more videos on this device in the future. Probably a more in-depth review once I've actually had it for a while. But this is it for my first impressions of the Samsung Galaxy Tab S10 Plus, featuring MediaTek's current flagship, the Dimensity 9300 Plus. If you like the video, remember to leave a like. If you want to see more handheld gaming content, subscribe to the channel. And thank you for watching. I'll see you next video.